Hello, I am here with Cassandra, and we are going to do some co-cooking in our kitchens, and we're going to cook soups. The first thing I want to say is that we are arriving in our kitchens, and it's in an imperfect state. Our kitchens aren't perfect. They're very ordinary, simple kitchens. Not everything is 100% organized. This isn't a showroom kitchen. It's just the way it is. And I don't have all the exact ingredients that I might want to have, but I have enough to make do with what I have. And I think that's how probably 80% of the cooking I do is just like that. How about you, Cassandra?
Oh, totally. I always say that this kitchen is used, it's lived in. So it's, where we cook, it's where we hang out, it's where we just spend time, it's where we work sometimes. Imperfect kitchen, definitely for sure. And it's not the state of the art, everything, this and that, but it's where we like to spend our time and we love it.
Today, I'm planning on making a chicken broth and a beef stew. How about you?
Delicious. I am going to be making a curried acorn squash soup. So perfect as we are in fall and heading into winter.
Excellent. That sounds so warming and soothing. Well, why don't we start? I'll start with my chicken broth, and then we'll go to you with your acorn squash soup. I have one chicken back, and it actually includes quite a bit of meat on it. There's some fat on it. And the benefits of chicken broth is that you get the minerals that are in the bones. So the end product is going to be high in calcium. You get the all the stuff that's in the joints, like the collagen and things that make joints strong, will end up in the soup, in the broth, and then you can use the broth as a basis for other soups. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it in the water and turn my pot on. I'm starting from very scratch here. So let me just get that done.
Awesome. I am starting to make my cauliflower florets. That is one of the vegetables that is in the curry soup. So I love cauliflower. There actually is a decent amount of potassium, magnesium, even some protein in there. This is vegan and gluten-free. So anything I can put into the protein count in there, I'm definitely all about. So I am going to be roasting this cauliflower drizzled in olive oil and curry seasoning. So I'm just making, medium-sized chunks before I toss it in.
That sounds so delicious. And I love that you're vegan, I'm an omnivore, and we're making different dishes. It's so fun to just cook together.
Something for everybody.
Right, something for everybody. I have just chopped up some celery that was in my fridge a little too long for just, it's really not bad, but and all the leafy parts of celery, I'm still pretty crunchy, but I'm just not going to eat it, and I want to put it in a soup. So that's going in with the chicken broth.
Yeah, perfect way to get more life out of it. And one thing I did want to say is that I am the only vegan in the house. There is one person who is pescatarian, dairy-free, and another person who eats all of the things. So what's great about this soup is that you can add in, shrimp or something else, another meat or whatnot afterwards. If someone that maybe wants a little bit more protein or wants a meat or fish option, you can easily add that in.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really nice thing. With what I'm making, you can't take the meat out.
Be hard to make chicken soup.
You can't make any of those things vegan. So I am now chopping an onion for the beef stew, but I'm going to save the skins and throw them in with the chicken broth, because you can save like the ends of your veggies. And if you're not ready to make a broth out of it at the time, you can actually save it in a plastic bag and pop it in the freezer. And the next time you make soup, you just get like these, the skins out.
Yeah, great idea. And I just drizzled the olive oil over the cauliflower and then put probably about a tablespoon or so of curry seasoning over it and just tossing it, getting it all nice and coated and seasoned. I cook what I say intuitively. I don't usually measure things. I just kind of see what feels right. So I know not everybody cooks that way and they want to follow a recipe, which is great. You know, we do have those measurements if someone wants to follow it to a T as well.
Yeah, and I recognize I'm saying a step that I'm working on, and you're saying a step that you're working on, and we're working on different things. So it's a little bit all woven in, but we will provide, the recipes. We'll write down what we did and post the recipes so that for anyone watching, you can see exactly what we did.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I have my cauliflower florets ready to go and be roasted, nice and coated. I already preheated my oven to 400, so it's ready to pop in. I'm gonna do that now. And you roast for about 20 minutes or so. And about halfway through, 10 minutes in, I'll flip them over and just make sure they're nice and coated and cooking well.
Can you say again and show us the cauliflower again and say your coating? What was in your coating?
Yeah, all that it is, it's drizzled in olive oil, and then I have a curry seasoning. And just
Perfect.
mix it up. You probably could add, more salt and pepper if you wanted that. I wait until I get to the stock part or for the broth part for that, and then salt and pepper to taste when I get to that step.
Cool. So I'm chopping the ends off my carrots. The carrots are going in the beef stew, but I'm putting the carrot ends into the chicken broth.
Beautiful.
Nothing goes to waste as much as possible.
Right?
Sometimes it ends up in the compost, right? Which is not wasting exactly.
Right.
Because
Repurposing.
we'll end up in the garden.
So I have a lot of my veggies cut already from just various food prep that I've done over the weekend for other things. The recipe called for just carrots. I love rainbow carrots personally. Get a little bit more color and different nutrients into the soup. I had just like rainbow carrots and peeled them, and then
those look like they're so white.
Yeah, I used cut up all the purple ones already. But here's a purple one. So I don't have any whole purple ones left because those are my favorites. So they get used first. But I have a white and a yellow one here. And so I dice them for this soup. So I just peel and then I end up just like cutting it into little strips. So then I can chop them. And, just like we talked about kitchens not being perfect, my cubes are far from perfect. I do not have even cubes of my carrots, of my onions, of anything, but it's done and it still tastes amazing. So
I suppose the idea of having like your pieces of cut vegetables be the same size, because then they will cook to the same consistency. But we're not cooking for restaurants, and there's no one that I would be feeding this to that would go, oh my God, this cube is a little crunchier than that cube. Like
it gives you more texture and fun.
Yeah, so we don't have to be as rigid, I guess. But of course, if that's just something you prefer, that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I have mushrooms in the fridge that I can add to the beef stew.
So how perfect. Yeah, so I have my fun little imperfect cubes of carrots. So I have my rainbow carrots. You can see a lot more color in my cut ones. There's more purple in there. And then I have parsnip that I cubed, and then I had a bunch of diced onion already. So I am going to saute that in some olive oil in my pan here, or my pot, and probably do that until they begin to get soft. I put the parsnip and the carrot in first because those take longer, and then I'll add the onion in. One thing I do want to mention is because it takes quite a bit longer to cook, I already have my acorn squash done.
Yeah.
All I did to cook the acorn squash is I cut it in half and I took out the seeds, and then I took this baking dish, put about water, so it's like 1/4 of an inch high, put the acorn squash face down like this, so the skin side up, and then baked it at 400 for about 30 minutes. And then I just took it out and been letting it rest. So that part
Oh,
is already done.
that's great. You know, you go to the grocery store and you see those funny looking squashes and you go, "Oh, I'm not really sure what I'm going to make," but you know, and you just pass it by sometimes.
Yeah.
It's great to see you do something with it because there's something about seeing someone do something that just gives you the idea that you can do it too. Even if you maybe you've cooked acorn squash before, but every fall it's there again and you have sometimes forgotten what you did with it last year.
Yeah. It's always good to get inspiration. And even if you used it, last fall, seeing how someone else prepares it or uses it, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it'd be fun to try.
So that's interesting about your recipe or the way that you're doing it is like you're putting the curry flavoring on the cauliflower like as it's roasting. It's taking.
Yeah. So I put it in the cauliflower, and then once I get everything in the pot, I'll add vegetable broth and water, and then also coconut milk. So again, the recipe technically calls for just plain, like no, not flavored coconut milk. Well, I didn't have that. So, but what I did have was coconut milk with turmeric in it. So that's why it's this color, not white. And it fits perfectly well with a curried soup. When I mix everything together, then I will add probably about another tablespoon of curry seasoning. But that way it gives the cauliflower a little oomph, a little extra flavor, and then it'll be in the broth as well. So,
And what's so great about turmeric and curry?
well, I mean, turmeric is known for its anti-inflammatory properties. So if I can have turmeric in something, I'm all about it. We all have a lot of inflammation, I feel like. And it's just very warming as well. So it's good, like again, for lowering inflammation in the body and also for gut health, keeping that GI tract just clear and clean and moving, which is really great, especially in the fall and winter time, as we kind of, just get a little bit more sedentary sometimes and more cozy, especially I'm up in the northern part of the US. So it gets very cold and snowy and icy, and I stay indoors a lot more during that time at least.
Have you had any freezing temperatures yet, Cassandra?
We did get some snow and ice already.
Already?
Yeah, it's gone now. We had it on Halloween. It
What?
was pretty intense, and then it was all gone the next day. But it didn't stop the kids from trick-or-treating. So I remember when I was really little, I think it was in 1991. Is that when it was? A great snowstorm, a Halloween snowstorm in Minnesota in 1991. Like, I mean, feet, like so many feet of snow, but we still went out.
Wasn't it fun when you were a kid to have a big snowstorm?
Yes, it was. It was.
You're like so excited to not go to school, to have a snow day.
Right? I know we'd always wake up early and then like turn on the radio and wait for our school district to be called. Did you have those? I guess do you have snow days and all that?
Yeah, I grew up in New York State, and so we did have snowstorms and snow days. So I remember I was a senior in high school in 1978, and there was this big blizzard in 78. And what we did for fun was drive around and get stuck and get ourselves unstuck. And then we went and helped the next person who was stuck. And it was a blast. I'll never forget how much fun that was. And recently, a couple of years ago, here in Northern California, we had a blizzard and I had 2 feet of snow. And I would drive around and skid, and I just would laugh spontaneously, so joyously. And I think it was rooted in how much fun I had as a kid in the snow. Whereas my California neighbors were like, "Oh my God, I'm scared to drive. It's so treacherous."
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. How fun.
I was very
Yeah.
grateful to have grown up in a snowy area at that moment.
Snow is great and winter is great if you are dressed appropriately.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's great. I know I love like sledding and snow tubing and all that. It's so fun. You said you just whoosh.
I shouldn't have to say this, but Californians, you need to get out of your flip-flops in the snow. Just some people don't want to dress warmly here.
I mean, if you're not used to it, you never know. So
Yeah.
out of the carrots and the parsnip sauteing right now, I am going to add just a little bit of salt in there. Nothing crazy. And I'll add my onions momentarily.
And I'm going to start adding stuff to my crock pot. I'm cooking, I just have a very simple crock pot and I've already got it heating up. And I'm going to throw in my chopped onions. So chop the onions any which all the way. So chunks kind of like that. They'll break apart by the sections. So there's the onions. There is the carrots. There is the potato.
I love potatoes.
I
so
used
much.
a huge russet potato, one huge russet potato.
And so you said you're putting all yours in a crock pot?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, one thing I did want to say is, so I'm doing my sauteing of the carrots, parsnip, and then I'll add the onions here momentarily in my pot that I'm going to put like the veggie broth, the coconut milk, everything in. So I'm not using, I'm lessening the amount of dishes I'm going to have later.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I could saute my things first, but I don't feel like it. I've done it this way before and it comes out fine. And by the same token, the chicken bones could be roasted first. Some people prefer that flavor. I will try that one day. I actually always do it just raw. But one day I'll try baking the bones first. And also with the beef, many people cook, like just outwardly cook the beef first and then put it in. I can't tell the difference in the taste, so I just put it in.
Yeah,
So
skip the step.
Yeah, I'm gonna rinse this.
Yeah. Anyway, you can make it simpler, right? So I know you said you're making like a bone broth, correct?
Yes.
And what are all of the, I know bone broth, it's so amazing for you.
Well, the great thing about bone broth is that it's high in calcium and it's high in collagen. And it's also high in glutamine, which is soothing for the gut. So if you are wanting to heal a leaky gut, heal intestinal permeability, then bone broth is really helpful. You can take collagen, like I have this handy on my counter because I take like whole beauty collagen. It's particularly for skin, hair, and nails. You can take it as a supplement, but if you wanted to do it as a food, then bone broth is like the first thing that you think of. When I think of a vegan version of bone broth, I mean, obviously it's just not going to be the same, but you can make a mineral broth from vegetables and you cook the broth down. And in the last half hour, you throw in like a half a cup, depending on the size of your pot, but a quarter cup, half a cup of flax seeds. And then you get the mucilaginous feeling of the flax seeds. And that is also very soothing to the gut. So in a different way, that would be what I would recommend for vegans and vegetarians who are also wanting to do some kind of broth that's healing.
That's great. I've never done that. I've tried that before.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip my cauliflower, just turn it.
And then you strain it all out. Like, when you're making a mineral broth from vegetables, and then you put the flax seeds in at the end, after everything is cooked in, then you just strain it out and you end up with a liquid. I have had people have amazing results with kind of detoxing using that kind of mineral broth as something very steadying and grounding and helpful for their energy while they're going through a detox.
And so are they only eating the broth or drinking the broth and no other food? Are they doing like a fast?
They're doing other foods, but just not as much. Like maybe they're doing some detox shakes with special detox powders that support the liver. And they're not like having their normal meals for every meal. So in between, if they're hungry, they're having a mineral broth. Similarly with the bone broth, there is a whole way of, if someone wants to do weight loss, you can do a bone broth fast. And that's basically just, it's not like a true fast, like a water fast, where you're not taking in any calories at all. But you're drinking bone broth throughout the day, and that's it for either 24 hours, which would be like you don't eat anything all night and then you eat again at dinner. So that's a 24-hour fast. And then a 36-hour fast is you don't eat anything all day until the following breakfast. So you've gone 36 hours without eating. Okay. So people do that using bone broth, and it feels a little bit more doable with bone broth. And then you get all the benefits for your skin and your hair and your gut. I think that can be a really helpful way of just shifting things. And it's very healing to your digestion to do a little bit of fasting. You kind of need to be in a relaxed place to fast. Like, it's not good to be really stressed out and not eat.
Yeah, I'm sure that then just adds another stressor to your
right?
Yeah. And I just added my onions now. So I probably had my carrots and parsnips on 5 to 7 minutes. And now adding the onions.
Nice. So you're sauteing all of your veggies in olive oil?
Yeah, for this one I am. Sometimes I do coconut oil.
Okay.
Whatever I feel.
Nice.
But olive oil and coconut oil are the two oils that I cook with primarily.
I have a tomato from my garden. It's so soft, right? I'm just not even going to cut it. I'm just going to, well, I'll take out the center part, because in the beef broth, I'm not going to strain it. So I don't really want that in there. But that is going in there whole. And I'll just say the beef that I use is 100% pasture raised. And that means it was fed on grass throughout its entire life. And that creates more, that's the animal's natural diet. And so that creates more of the essential fats that are most beneficial, like EPA and DHA are just higher in 100% pasture raised animals. And that's really good for your brain and your hormones. And it's also anti-inflammatory. And then some green peppers. I don't have any moisture in my crock pot. So the vegetables and things haven't cooked down yet. So sometimes I add like a pre-made sauce to the crock pot. And this is an interesting kind. It's called FODMAP, which is short for FODMAP. So people on the FODMAP diet can use this. Easy to digest, easy to love. So people on the FODMAP diet are avoiding garlic and onion. I've already thrown in an onion, so it's not something for someone on a FODMAP diet that is avoiding those complex carbohydrates that are in onions. However, just to know that there are special sauces that avoid onions and garlic that people can get. And this was just very inexpensive at grocery outlets. So
awesome.
It's got tomatoes puree and apple cider vinegar, sea salt, mustard, black pepper, cumin, coriander, paprika, and chipotle powder. My mother would always rinse out cans and bottles with water and then add them to the recipe. So you end up with cleaner garbage and you get every last nutrient out of that can or bottle.
Yeah.
Do you do that, Cassandra?
Sometimes I do. Like if I have to add water to the recipe anyway, like if it calls for that, or, it's not that much, I'll put a little water in there.
It reminds me of my mom every time I do it. So thinking of your mother or your grandmother while you're cooking, doing things that they did.
Yeah, definitely. My mom was not much of a cook. Only on holidays. She was a holiday chef. But both of my grandmothers love to bake. They're both like really big into baking. So I was really big into baking for a while too. Just kind of made me feel connected to them, reminded me of spending time in the kitchen with them, and we'd always bake cookies, and it's very special.
Yeah, there's something about being a little girl in the kitchen with your mom or your grandmother and watching them and doing things with them And then later as an adult going, oh, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then wonder, how far back in time does that go? Like, you know, when you make a pie and you take a fork and you go around the edge of the pie crust to make that line pattern.
Yeah. The crimp.
Like, oh, my mother did this and my grandmother did this. I'm sure my great-grandmother or my great-great-grandmother did this. And all of a sudden I feel connected back in time through that little gesture in cooking.
Well, I mean, I feel like cooking has brought people together for centuries. You know, we're meant to cook in community. So
Yeah.
I would imagine it goes way, way back.
Yeah.
All right. I'm taking my cauliflower out.
Look at that.
It looks
Nice.
good. Sounds good.
Does it smell good? You smell the curry?
Yeah, yeah. It smells good.
And then I'm adding a little bit of crushed tomatoes, you know, just organic crushed tomatoes.
Ooh.
These are fire roasted. It has a little flavor, extra flavor to it. And again, I'm going to rinse my cans with a little water and throw that in. So I'm just rinsing my cans with water, get all the goodness, and adding them in. So I haven't added a lot of water to this, so it's going to be a thick stew. And I'm going to put the lid on and just leave it alone. I will probably let it cook for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 hours. I will go and test it. And then I'm going to taste it and add the spices and salt later. So I am just going to go by flavor. If I want to add more salt, if I might add a little bit of sweet, like a little bit of maple syrup, if I feel like it, or even stevia powder. Although I have some maple syrup today, so I probably add a little bit of that, just a tiny, like a tablespoon or something to get a little sweet taste in. If I feel like it needs it. Sometimes the tomatoes are enough that it was sweet. And then I don't know, I'll decide if I'm going to add more curry or chili or what flavor feels good.
That is wonderful. Yeah, it's always nice just to, whatever feels good, that's what you do.
Yeah, it's really nice to taste things and just give yourself a whole bunch of spoons and taste. I always taste with one spoon, put the spoon aside. I don't dip back in with the same spoon. I guess my mom taught me that. It's a way of, even though if it's boiling, it probably would kill any germs. That's just how I cook. It's fine to taste like 12 times and just add a little this and that until you feel like it's balanced in your palate.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of salty, a little bit of sweet, a little bit of savory taste, and then it all feels balanced.
Very good point. I usually, like I said, I don't usually measure my seasonings. I taste it and I'm like, okay, it needs more of this, it needs more of that. So
yeah, and it might take longer if you're following a recipe and it's got it all measured. Maybe it works. I usually find that I still want to tweak.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I found a recipe for this, but I'm not following it to a T by any means. Like, so I'm about to dump everything into here. The cauliflower will go in there and it'll kind of saute a little bit, just all the veggies together. And then I'll add some veggie broth, some water. This is like half of a can of coconut milk, and this is like half of a 32 ounce of veggie broth. And then I added about like a cup of water and then scoop the acorn squash in. And then you let it simmer for 10 minutes. And then it says to use an immersion blender or let it cool and put it like in a blender. And so it's all pureed and, you know, there's no chunks in the soup, but I like a chunky soup. I like that heartiness. So the acorn squash just like dissolves in all the liquid, and then I have the cauliflower, carrots, onions, parsnips, and it's just a delightful soup. So that's what felt right to me. That's what looked good to me. So that's where I stopped in the recipe.
It said to puree it, but you leave it chunky.
Yeah, I like the chunks. I feel like I'm getting more substance that way, I guess. Tricks my brain into being full. I don't know.
Nice. Well, I'm going to add a little bit of raw apple cider vinegar. I guess it doesn't really matter that it's raw because the it's going to boil. Raw apple cider vinegar has live beneficial bacteria in it. That's why I always buy raw. But I'm going to throw it into the chicken broth because the acid in it will help extract the minerals out of the bones. So I'm going to do that now. I put in 3 tablespoons. I want enough to get the extract, to extract the minerals, but I don't want so much that you taste like it tastes like vinegar. So
Yeah.
it feels about right to me. I keep the lid on because otherwise you want it to boil a long time, but you want to let it be on the lowest heat possible so that it doesn't evaporate out. Because sometimes what's happened is I end up with just like a little bit because I let it evaporate too much.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So I'm finished with all my prep. I can just put on little timers and walk away.
How perfect is that?
Yeah. So maybe
Yeah.
let's just summarize before we sign off. So I made a chicken broth. I used chicken backs, and the water is up to about here on the pot. And I put in like, I don't know, 5 stalks of celery and the onion, outside layers of the onion and the skins of the onion and that all goes in that broth, and it just cooks for, I mean, ideally you cook it overnight or something really long, but you can also just cook for what's convenient to you. And then you let it cool. And then the hardest part of the chicken broth is straining it. So you just get a colander and another container underneath, and you just let it drip. And then you have to get a plastic bag around the colander and dump it all that, put that in the trash. And then you have the beautiful liquid at the bottom. And then you can flavor it if you like, or just use it like that. And you can freeze it for later. You can freeze it in an ice cube tray and use cubes of it to saute vegetables. You can use it for a lot of different reasons. In the crock pot, I made the beef broth. Onions, carrots, potato, green pepper, the chipotle barbecue sauce container, and 2 cans of fire roasted tomatoes, a little bit of water, and that's it. And I'm going to let that cook for probably till probably late this evening. Before I go to bed, I'll turn it off.
Oh, yeah, that'll be easy. Yeah, all you have to just dump it in and walk away. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm now just putting all of my ingredients in the pot. And I actually have a batch that I had sitting on that I made the other day, and had sitting on the stove. So this is kind of that finished product here. Have all of my carrots, my parsnips, my onion, my cauliflower, all in the liquid. And like I said, the acorn squash, it just kind of dissolved into the other liquids. And yeah, but you can also take this and puree it and then add any other things you want, shrimp, beef, chicken.
Yeah, like a swirl of coconut yogurt might be nice too. Like,
yeah, that would be very good.
Sour cream would be nice, but that's a nice version of like plain coconut yogurt. Almost tastes like sour cream.
Yeah. I know, I see that at restaurants a lot too.
Yeah, with like a little chopped parsley on top.
Exactly. Good.
How would you describe the taste?
Yeah, I mean, it has, because of the curry, it has like a little bit of heat to it, like after taste of like heat, that it brings that warmth into the mouth and into the body, but it's not overpowering, which is one of the reasons I really like this soup and the curry. And that acorn squash brings just a rich creaminess to it. I really like that about it too. And kind of like what you were saying, that nice balance of the flavors where you get a little bit of the heat, there's a little bit of the saltiness from the salt that you add, and a little bit of sweetness from the carrot and the coconut milk. But it all balances very well together, and a little bit of acidity from the onion. So it's a very well balanced soup.
Wow. well, I can just imagine you going about your busy days and having that in the fridge waiting for you when you get home. And I'm looking forward to feasting on mine during this week too. So thank you so much for cooking with me, Cassandra. It's been really fun.
Absolutely. Anytime. It's always fun cooking with friends, even if it's on Zoom.
That's right. All right. Take care.
Bye now.